The sound of plates shattering against the marble floor of the restaurant, the Austin Grill, echoed like a gunshot in the elegant dining room of the Georgetown neighborhood. Jessica Miller, 24, with skin as fair as a southern magnolia and green eyes that now brimmed with tears of humiliation, stood motionless amidst the ceramic fragments and the scattered remains of barbecue chicken that stained her black uniform. The silence that followed was deafening. All the diners at the exclusive Texas-style restaurant in D.C. had stopped their conversations to stare at the mess. At the central table, an imposing man remained serene despite having a splash of dark gravy on his perfectly tailored suit. He was Adam al-Mutairi, 32, a Saudi sheikh whose presence had caused a stir since his arrival. "You're useless, Jessica," Chef Rodriguez's voice cut through the air like a knife. 3 months working here, and you're still the same clumsy country girl from Ohio. Do you think this is some small-town diner? Jessica felt the heat of shame rise up her neck, coloring her cheeks a deep red that contrasted painfully with her fair skin. The eyes of the wealthy diners, businessmen in expensive suits, DC socialites, international tourists, were all fixed on her like daggers, witnesses to her deepest humiliation. "I'm so sorry, Chef. It was an accident. Her voice trembled, small and broken, with a slight Midwestern accent she tried so hard to hide. "I don't want excuses." Rodriguez got so close that Jessica could smell the bourbon on his breath. "That table is for Sheikh al-Mutairi. Do you know who he is? One of the richest men in the Gulf, and you ruined his dinner." Jessica looked at the table in question, where Adam al-Mutairi remained motionless. Tall, with an athletic build that was visible under his immaculate navy suit, his black hair elegantly slicked back, and a pair of surprisingly clear blue eyes that watched her with an unreadable expression. There was something in his gaze that wasn't contempt, but curiosity. "Clean up this mess immediately," Rodriguez yelled, and other servers appeared with brooms and rags. Jessica knelt among the fragments, her hands shaking as she tried to pick up the pieces. A hot tear slid down her cheek and fell onto the spilled BBQ sauce, mixing with the flavors of Texas that now lay destroyed on the cold floor. "Ma'am." A deep, soft voice made her look up. Adam al-Mutairi had approached and was kneeling beside her, his blue eyes fixed on her green ones. "No, sir, I can—" Jessica tried to protest, but he was already picking up the largest pieces of ceramic. It was then that something extraordinary happened. Without thinking, the words came out of her mouth in perfect Arabic. "Ashkuruk jazil shukr ala lutfik, lakin hadha laysa daruriyan." "Thank you so much for your kindness, but this is not necessary." Adam froze, his blue eyes widening in utter surprise. The murmur of the restaurant stopped completely. Even Rodriguez was speechless. "Atatahaddathina al-Arabiyya? You speak Arabic?" Adam asked in a low voice, as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. "Naam Sidi. تعلمت اللغة في الجامعة وأحب الثقافة العربية كثيرا." "Yes, sir. I learned the language in college and I love the Arab culture very much," Jessica replied, her voice now steadier. Adam slowly stood up, helping her to her feet. When their hands touched, Jessica felt an electric current that made her shiver. His eyes never left hers as he spoke. "لم أتوقع أن أسمع عربيتي الأم في مطعم أمريكي في Washington." I didn't expect to hear my native language in an American restaurant in D.C. "The U.S. and the Middle East share a lot of history, Mr. al-Mutairi," Jessica continued in Arabic, finding a confidence she didn't know she possessed. "Our cultures have been connected for centuries." A slow smile spread across Adam's face, completely transforming his serious expression. "Istithna'i. Extraordinary," he murmured. "Mr. al-Mutairi." Rodriguez rushed over, sweating nervously. "Please don't trouble yourself. We'll take care of this immediately. I'll get you another plate right away." Adam turned to the chef, but his hand remained gently on Jessica's arm. "It's no problem, chef. Accidents happen." His English was perfect, but he spoke with a slight British accent that hinted at his international education. "However, I would like this young lady to join me at my table." "Excuse me." Rodriguez blinked in confusion. "I am very impressed with her knowledge of my culture. I would like to talk with her more." Jessica felt as if she were in a dream. "Sir, I'm just a waitress." "You are a young woman who speaks my language fluently and with respect for my culture," Adam interrupted softly. "That is rarer and more valuable than any title." The next 30 minutes were the most extraordinary of Jessica's life. Seated at Adam al-Mutairi's table, conversing in Arabic about classic poetry, the history of the Middle East, and the similarities between Arab and American hospitality, she felt as if she had found a world where she finally fit in. Adam told her about his education at Oxford, his travels around the world, his passion for uniting different cultures. Jessica shared her story, how she had studied Arabic at Georgetown University, working at night to pay for her studies, how she had read everything about the Middle East and dreamed of visiting the places where different cultures had coexisted for centuries. "My dad was a carpenter in Ohio," Jessica confessed in Arabic, feeling strangely comfortable sharing her story. "My mom made traditional Amish quilts. We were humble, but they taught me to love learning." "Wisdom knows no social class," Adam replied, his blue eyes shining with sincerity. "In my country, we have a profound respect for those who seek knowledge." When the conversation came to an end, Adam leaned forward with a serious expression. "Jessica Miller, I have a proposal that could change your life." Jessica's heart stopped. "What kind of proposal?" "I'm organizing a cultural festival in Riyadh that will celebrate the historical connections between the Arab world and the United States. I need someone who understands both cultures, who can serve as a bridge between two worlds. But I have no experience with cultural events. You have something more valuable." Adam leaned closer, and his scent of oud and bergamot enveloped Jessica. "You have a genuine passion for both cultures and the ability to communicate with respect and authenticity." Jessica felt as if destiny were offering her an opportunity she had never dreamed possible. "Are you offering me a job in Saudi Arabia?" "I'm offering you the opportunity to make cultural history," he corrected her. "The festival will include American jazz musicians, Arab poets, chefs from both traditions, artisans. It would be a celebration of our shared heritage." Jessica's mind raced a mile a minute. It was risky. She could fail miserably, but "my family," and she began to protest. "I understand it's a major decision." Adam pulled out an elegant business card. "Think about it. If you decide to accept, my assistant will handle all the travel and documentation arrangements." After Adam left, leaving a generous tip that covered the value of the broken plates and more, Jessica was left holding the card, feeling as if her life had changed forever in a single night. Rodriguez approached with a completely different expression, now obsequious and nervous. "Jessica, I didn't know you spoke Arabic. There are a lot of things you don't know about me," she replied, with a new confidence in her voice. That night, as she walked through the streets of Georgetown toward her small shared apartment, Jessica couldn't stop thinking about those blue eyes and the way Adam had pronounced her name in Arabic, Jessica. For the first time in months, she felt that maybe, just maybe, destiny had bigger plans for her. But what she didn't know was that accepting that proposal would lead her on a journey that would test everything she thought she knew about love, courage, and her own place in the world. Destiny, after all, speaks many languages, and sometimes it finds us right when we need it most. Chapter 2. 5 days after the encounter at the Austin Grill, Jessica nervously walked through Dulles Airport with a small suitcase and a heart that was beating uncontrollably. The decision had not been easy. Her mother, Carol, had cried for hours when she told her about Adam's proposal. "Jessica, my baby, Saudi Arabia, are you crazy?" Carol had yelled from their small house in Ohio when Jessica went to say goodbye. "What do you know about those people? What if something happens to you? What if you can't come back?" "Mom, it's a unique opportunity," Jessica had insisted, even though she herself had the same doubts. "Adam, Mr. Al-Mutairi, he's an honorable person, and this could change my future." "Adam already?" Her mother had raised an eyebrow suspiciously. "You're calling him by his first name that fast?" Now, waiting at the boarding gate for the flight to Riyadh, Jessica wondered if her mother had been right. She was dressed discreetly in long pants, a long-sleeved shirt, and carried an elegant scarf in her bag just in case she needed it. She had researched Saudi cultural protocol extensively, determined not to make any mistakes. "Miss Miller." A female voice with a British accent startled her. She turned to find a young woman in her 30s, elegantly dressed in a black business suit, dark hair pulled back in a perfect bun, and a professional smile. "I'm Layla Hussein, Mr. Al-Mutairi's personal assistant," she introduced herself in fluent English. "I've come to accompany you on the flight." "Oh," Jessica felt relieved. "I didn't know that. Mr. Adam made sure you had all the necessary support." Layla smiled more warmly. "I understand this is your first time traveling to our country." "Yes, I'm a little nervous," Jessica admitted. "It's completely normal. But you'll feel more at ease when you see that we're not as different as people think." During the 7-hour flight to Riyadh, Layla proved to be extraordinary company. Educated in London, she spoke 5 languages and had a PhD in international relations. She told Jessica about the modern changes in Saudi Arabia, about women driving, working, and studying in universities. "The Crown Prince has implemented reforms that are transforming our country," Layla explained as they shared a halal dinner during the flight. "Vision 2030 includes an unprecedented cultural openness. The festival you're going to help organize is part of that vision. And Mr. Al-Mutairi is involved in these changes. Adam is one of the most progressive businessmen in the kingdom. Layla smiled with obvious admiration. His family has businesses in technology, cultural tourism, and sustainable development. But he is special. He has traveled a lot, studied at Oxford, and he truly believes in building bridges between cultures. Jessica felt a strange warmth in her chest hearing Adam spoken of with such respect. When the plane began its descent into Riyadh, Jessica looked out the window and held her breath. The city stretched out like a sea of golden lights under the night desert sky. Modern skyscrapers rose next to traditional architecture, creating a landscape that seemed otherworldly. "Welcome to Riyadh," Layla murmured. "Your new adventure is about to begin." At King Khalid Airport, Jessica felt immediately overwhelmed by the grandeur of the place. Huge terminals with soaring ceilings, Islamic art on the walls, and a constant flow of people of all nationalities. But what struck her most was the diversity: women in elegant abayas, but also in jeans and colorful hijabs, men in traditional thobes, and others in Western suits. "Things have changed a lot," Layla commented, noticing Jessica's surprised expression. "It's no longer the closed-off country they showed on the news." An elegant chauffeur was waiting for them with a sign that read, "Miss Miller" in Arabic and English. The black Mercedes that drove them along the wide avenues of Riyadh gave Jessica a perfect view of a city that defied all her expectations. Modern shopping malls, parks full of families, international restaurants, and a vibrant energy that pulsed on every corner. "Where am I going to be staying?" Jessica asked as she watched the illuminated buildings go by. "Adam arranged an apartment for you in the Olaya district," Layla replied. "It's a modern, safe area with easy access to the cultural center where we'll be working." The apartment turned out to be much more luxurious than Jessica had expected. A spacious place with a view of the city, decorated with an elegant mix of modern and traditional Arab elements. There were fresh flowers in crystal vases, choice fruits in the kitchen, and a handwritten note in Arabic and English. "Welcome to Riyadh, Jessica. I hope you feel at home. Tomorrow we'll start this adventure together. Adam." "Mr. Adam wants you to rest tonight," Layla explained. "He'll come to pick you up at 10 tomorrow to show you the city and discuss the details of the festival." After Layla left, Jessica was left alone in the apartment, trying to process everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. She had woken up in DC as a restaurant waitress, and now she was in Riyadh as a cultural advisor to one of the most influential men in Saudi Arabia. She walked to the window and looked out at the illuminated city that stretched to the horizon. The lights of Riyadh shone like earthly stars, and for the first time since she arrived, she felt a pure excitement instead of nervousness. The next morning, Jessica woke up to the sound of the adhan, the call to prayer, which resonated melodically from the nearby mosques. It was a sound she had heard in recordings during her studies, but to experience it in person was completely different, beautiful, spiritual, and deeply moving. She dressed carefully in a long navy blue dress, covered her hair with an elegant silk scarf, and nervously awaited Adam's arrival. When the doorbell rang at exactly 10 o'clock, Jessica opened the door to find Adam dressed more casually than in DC. Khaki pants, a white shirt, and a smile that made her heart race involuntarily. "Sabah al-khair, Jessica." "Good morning, Jessica." He greeted her in Arabic. "Sabah al-nur." "Good morning," she replied, and his smile widened. "How did you sleep? Is the apartment comfortable?" "It's beautiful, thank you. Much more than I expected. Nothing is too much for someone who is going to help me create something historic." Adam moved closer, and she could smell his familiar scent. "Ready to get to know Riyadh?" The tour of the city was a revelation. Adam first took her to the historic district of Diriyah, where the restored adobe structures contrasted dramatically with the modern skyscrapers in the distance. "This is where it all began," Adam explained, as they walked through the narrow, history-filled streets. "This place represents our roots but also our ability to evolve without losing our identity." "It's like Charleston," Jessica murmured, touching the adobe walls. "Living history, coexisting with the present." "Exactly." Adam stopped and looked at her intensely. "That's why I need your perspective. You see the connections that others can't." Then he took her to the King Abdulaziz Cultural Center, where the festival would be held. The building was impressive. Contemporary architecture with traditional Islamic elements, huge spaces that could accommodate thousands of people, and perfect acoustics for musical performances. "Imagine," Adam said, his blue eyes shining with enthusiasm as he pointed to the main stage. Jazz guitar and Arab oud playing together. Poetry by Walt Whitman and Khalil Gibran recited in the same space. American and Saudi artisans exchanging techniques. Jessica felt a thrill of excitement. It would be incredible. Do you think it's possible? More than possible, she replied with growing confidence. Necessary. During lunch at an elegant restaurant that served Arab-Mediterranean fusion, Adam explained the logistical details of the festival. We have 3 months to organize it. The government has approved the project. We have funding and contacts in both the US and here. But I need someone who can coordinate the cultural aspects, making sure we represent both traditions with respect and authenticity. What kind of artists are you considering? From the US. We want jazz musicians from New Orleans, ceramic artisans from Santa Fe, chefs specializing in Southern cuisine. From here, masters of Arabic calligraphy, traditional oud musicians, contemporary poets. Jessica listened, fascinated, taking mental notes and feeling her excitement grow with every detail. There's something else. Adam leaned forward, his voice becoming more intimate. I want this festival to be personal for you too. A celebration of your own Midwestern heritage. What do you mean? I did a little research on your family after our meeting, he admitted with a shy smile. The Millers from Ohio have roots that go back to the early American settlers. Your great-grandfather was one of the last artisans who knew the traditional techniques of American quilting. Jessica looked at him in complete surprise. How? I have good contacts in historical archives, he smiled. I thought you might like to know that you carry that history in your blood. For the first time since she arrived in Riyadh, Jessica felt tears in her eyes. But they weren't tears of sadness, but something like recognition, as if a part of her that had been lost had finally found its place. Why are you doing all this for me? She asked softly. Adam remained silent for a long moment, his blue eyes studying her face with an intensity that made her tremble. Because ever since I met you, I feel like you've awakened something in me that I didn't know existed, he finally confessed. A realization that the barriers between cultures are illusions and that some people are destined to be bridges. The air between them became charged with electricity. Jessica was very aware of how close they were, of how the light of the restaurant made his blue eyes shine, of how his voice had become deeper when he spoke. Adam, she began, but he gently raised a hand. I know it's early, he murmured. I know we are from different worlds, but I also know that what I felt when I heard you speak my language with such respect was something I had never experienced before. Jessica felt as if she was standing on the edge of an emotional cliff. Every instinct told her to be cautious, not to get carried away by the magic of the moment. But when she looked into those sincere blue eyes, she saw something that reassured her. It wasn't just attraction she saw, but genuine respect, admiration, and something that looked a lot like the beginning of true love. Something happened to me that day too, she finally admitted. When you helped me with the broken plates, no one had ever treated me with such gentleness. So will you stay? Will you agree to create this festival with me? Jessica took a deep breath, feeling as if she were making the most important decision of her life. Yes, she whispered. I agree. The smile Adam gave her could have lit up all of Riyadh. That night, as Jessica prepared for bed in her apartment overlooking the city of 1001 nights, she couldn't stop smiling. Her life had changed in ways she had never imagined, and she had the strange feeling that this was only the beginning of something extraordinary. But what she didn't know was that organizing a cross-cultural festival in Saudi Arabia would bring challenges that would test not only her abilities, but also the feelings that were blossoming between her and Adam. Love, after all, had always been the most difficult art of all cultures. Chapter 3. 3 weeks after her arrival in Riyadh, Jessica had discovered that organizing a cross-cultural festival was like walking through an emotional and political minefield. Every decision, from the selection of artists to the program design, required navigating centuries-old traditions, religious sensibilities, and modern expectations. The office Adam had arranged for her at the Cultural Center was elegant and functional. A glass desk with a view of the gardens, a state-of-the-art computer, and walls decorated with historical maps of the Middle East and North America. But on this Thursday morning, Jessica was sitting in front of a crisis that threatened to destroy the entire project. We cannot allow them to dance together, declared Ahmed al-Rashid, a man in his 50s with a perfectly groomed grey beard and a severe expression. He was the representative of the Conservative Cultural Council, and he had come accompanied by 3 other equally serious men. I'm sorry? Jessica looked up from the document she was reviewing, feeling a pang of panic settle in her stomach. The American dancers and the Arab dancers, Ahmed gestured with disapproval. Men and women from different cultures dancing together, it's inappropriate. Jessica took a deep breath, remembering the cultural diplomacy lessons she had been intensely studying. With all due respect, Mr. Al-Rashid, she began in fluent Arabic, dance is an artistic expression that transcends barriers. Throughout history, that history is over, another of the men interrupted her. We live in different times. But the purpose of the festival is to celebrate those historical connections, Jessica insisted, feeling her frustration grow but remaining diplomatic. American dance has deep historical roots. It would be like separating a river from its source. The young lady is right. A clear female voice resonated from the office entrance. Everyone turned to see a woman in her 40s, elegantly dressed in a cream-colored abaya embroidered with gold thread, hair covered with a silk hijab, but with a presence that radiated authority. Dr. Amira. Ahmed stood up immediately, his tone becoming more respectful. We didn't know you were coming today. Dr. Amira Al-Zahra. The woman walked over to Jessica with a warm smile. Director of the Ministry's Cultural Heritage Department, and you must be Jessica Miller. It's an honor to meet you. Jessica stood up, feeling immediately that she had found an ally. The honor is mine. Amira turned to the men of the council. Gentlemen, I understand your concerns, but we must remember that this festival has the direct support of the Crown Prince. Vision 2030 specifically includes the promotion of cultural exchange. But, Doctor, Ahmed protested, the traditions evolve or they die, Amira replied firmly. And our tradition includes centuries of cultural coexistence. After the council men left, clearly annoyed but without the authority to contradict Dr. Amira, Jessica felt relieved, but also exhausted. Thank you, she murmured. I thought they were going to cancel the whole project. This isn't the first time you've faced opposition, is it? Amira sat across from her, studying her with intelligent eyes. Every day brings a new challenge, Jessica admitted. Yesterday, a group of American artists cancelled their participation because their representatives felt the cultural environment here was too restrictive. The day before, a Saudi poet withdrew because he thought including secular American poetry would secularize the event. Welcome to the art of cultural diplomacy, Amira smiled understandingly. But tell me, is Adam supporting you in this? Jessica felt warmth in her cheeks at the mention of Adam's name. Yes, completely, but he has other business responsibilities, and I don't want to bother him with every little problem. Little problem? Amira raised an eyebrow. Jessica, you are doing something that hasn't been attempted in decades. You are literally building bridges between worlds. That is never small. That afternoon, while Jessica was reviewing the menu proposals for the opening gala, Adam appeared in her office unannounced. He was wearing a dark grey suit that accentuated his blue eyes, but there were lines of tension around his mouth that hadn't been there before. I heard about the Conservative Council's visit, he said without preamble. Everything is under control, Jessica replied quickly, not wanting to worry him. Dr. Amira helped me. Jessica, Adam approached, and surprising her, took her hands in his. You don't have to face this alone. The contact sent a current of warmth through her body. In the 3 weeks they had been working together, there had been moments of intense emotional proximity, long conversations that stretched late into the night, gazes that lasted longer than professionally appropriate, but he had maintained a respectful physical distance until now. I'm not alone, she murmured, very aware of how close they were. I have a good team. I mean something more personal than that. His blue eyes intensified. Jessica, these last few days, seeing everything you've faced, I've realized something. What? That I'm falling in love with you. The words fell between them like stones in a silent lake, creating ripples that spread in all directions. Jessica felt as if the air had left her lungs. Adam, I know it's complicated, he continued, his thumbs gently stroking the backs of her hands. I know our cultures, our families, may have reservations, but I also know that what I feel for you is real. Jessica looked into his eyes, seeing a vulnerability that contrasted dramatically with his usual control and composure. I feel something too, she finally confessed, but we have to be careful. Why? Because if this doesn't work, we don't just lose a relationship, we lose the festival, we lose the trust of our communities, we lose... And what if it does work? Adam moved closer, so close that she could feel his breath. What if we are proof that our cultures can unite not just in art, but in love? Before Jessica could reply, her phone rang. Reality struck abruptly when she saw the name on the screen. Mom, Ohio. I have to take this, she murmured, and Adam nodded, stepping away respectfully. Mum, Jessica, my baby. Carol's voice sounded tense and worried. I've been watching the news about the protests in Riyadh. What protests? Jessica felt a pang of alarm. They said on the news that there are conservative groups protesting against a cultural festival. Isn't that yours? Jessica looked at Adam with alarm. He immediately pulled out his phone and started making quick calls in Arabic. "Mom, I'm fine," Jessica tried to reassure her mother while internally panicking. "Everything is under control." "Under control? Jessica, come home immediately. This is exactly what I was afraid would happen. I can't abandon the project now." "That project is going to get you into trouble," Carol almost yelled. "And that Arab man, what kind of relationship do you have with him?" Jessica looked at Adam, who had finished his calls and was watching her with obvious concern. "He's my work partner, Mum." "Don't lie to me, Jessica. A mother knows these things. Be careful, my baby. Rich, powerful men from those countries, they don't marry girls like us." Her mother's words resonated painfully in Jessica's chest because they touched her own deepest fears. After calming her mother down and hanging up, Adam approached again. "There are small demonstrations in front of the cultural center," he reported with a tense voice. "Groups that oppose cultural exchange, but I have additional security arriving, and the government's support is solid. Maybe we should consider postponing." "No," Adam was categorical. "That would be giving them exactly what they want. But if someone gets hurt..." "Jessica," he took her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him. "Do you believe in what we are doing?" "Yes." "Do you believe it's worth fighting for?" "Yes." "Then we fight. Together." That night, from her apartment window, Jessica could see the lights of the city, but she could also faintly hear the sound of the demonstrations in the distance. Her phone had been ringing constantly. Her mother, friends from the US expressing concern, even some journalists who had gotten her number. She was making mint tea when the doorbell rang. When she opened it, she found Adam standing in the hallway with a serious expression. "Are you okay?" was the first thing he asked. "Yes, just overwhelmed." "Can I come in?" Jessica hesitated for a moment. Being alone with him in her apartment at night crossed lines they had been carefully avoiding, but the genuine concern in his eyes overcame her caution. "Of course." They sat on the couch, maintaining a respectful distance, but charged with unresolved tension. "I want you to know," Adam began, "that if you decide to go back to the US, I will completely understand." "Is that what you want?" "What I want," he turned to look at her directly, "is for you to be safe and happy. If that means here with me, perfect. If it means in DC without me, I will accept it." Jessica studied his face, looking for signs of lies or manipulation, but she only found complete sincerity. "Adam, when I met you in DC, I thought you were just another rich, powerful man playing with ordinary people. And now I see that you are someone who truly believes in changing the world, one small cultural revolution at a time." He smiled gently. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" "It's dangerous," she admitted, "because it makes me want to stay and fight with you, no matter the consequences." "And what's stopping you?" Jessica took a deep breath, preparing to be completely honest. "The fear that when this is over, when the festival is history, you will go back to your world and I will go back to mine. The fear that this is just an exotic adventure for you." Adam was silent for several minutes, processing her words. When he spoke, his voice was firm but soft. "Jessica, I have been engaged before. To a cousin, arranged by our families. It was logical, convenient, appropriate according to all traditions. What happened? I realized that a life without real love is an empty life, no matter how much money or status you have." He moved closer. "With you, I feel something I never experienced with her, the desire to be a better man." "Adam, I'm not asking you to love me," he continued. "I'm asking you to give me the chance to earn it." Jessica felt tears in her eyes. All her defenses, all her fears, seemed insignificant compared to the absolute sincerity she saw in his blue eyes. "You already have," she whispered. When he leaned in to kiss her, Jessica felt as if she had finally found her place in the world. The kiss was soft but intense, full of unspoken promises and shared dreams. When they separated, they were both trembling. "What do we do now?" she asked. "Now," Adam smiled, "we save the festival, and then we save our future." Outside, the city of Riyadh continued with its nightlife, oblivious to two people who had just decided that love was stronger than any tradition, any border, or any fear. But what they didn't know was that the real challenges were just beginning, and that their love would have to survive trials that would call into question everything they thought they knew about commitment, sacrifice, and the price of true love. Chapter 4. The dawn in Riyadh came with news that changed everything for Jessica and Adam. The protests of the previous night had been only the prelude to a media storm that threatened to destroy not only the festival, but also both of their careers and reputations. Jessica woke up to the insistent sound of her phone. It was 6 in the morning, and the screen showed more than 30 missed calls and dozens of text messages. With her heart beating uncontrollably, she opened the news app and felt as if the world had collapsed around her. Scandal in Saudi Arabia. Local businessman and American advisor involved in cultural and romantic controversy, read the main headline of Al Arabiya in Arabic. But what devastated her were the photographs. Grainy images of her and Adam in the restaurant, at the cultural center, and the most compromising of all, taken the night before through her apartment window, showing them in what was clearly an intimate moment. Her phone rang immediately. It was Layla, Adam's assistant, and her voice sounded tense and worried. "Jessica, have you seen the news?" "I just woke up to it," Jessica replied, feeling nauseous. "How did they get those photos?" "Someone was watching us. Adam is furious, but he's also worried about you. Are you okay?" "I don't know," Jessica admitted, walking to the window to look out cautiously. There were reporters and cameras on the street, clearly waiting for her to appear. "There's press outside my building." "Don't go out. Adam is sending security. He'll come to pick you up in an hour." After hanging up, Jessica sat on her couch, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the situation. Her phone kept ringing. Her mother in the US, hysterical, friends from DC who had seen the international news, even former college classmates she hadn't spoken to in years. The most difficult call came from David Santos, the cultural coordinator at the American Embassy in Riyadh. "Miss Miller," his voice was formal and cold, "we need to talk immediately." "Of course, Ambassador. I am not the ambassador. I am the cultural coordinator. And right now you represent a significant diplomatic problem for the United States." Jessica felt as if she had been slapped. "A diplomatic problem. The conservative media here are presenting your relationship with Mr. al-Mutairi as evidence that Western women are coming to Saudi Arabia to corrupt local traditions. The liberal media presents you as a victim of harassment by a powerful man. Both narratives are problematic, but neither of those narratives is true. The truth, Miss Miller, is often irrelevant in these cases. Perception is what matters." When Adam arrived at her apartment an hour later, surrounded by bodyguards and facing a crowd of reporters, Jessica barely recognized him. His usual expression of controlled calm had been replaced by something fierce and determined. He wore an impeccable black suit, but there was a tension in his shoulders that spoke of a sleepless night. "Are you okay?" was the first thing he asked when he saw her, taking her hands and studying her face with intense concern. "Physically, yes, but Adam, this is a disaster. David Santos from the American Embassy says I'm a diplomatic problem. My mother is threatening to come get me, and the festival is going to continue," he said with absolute firmness, "and you are going to be safe." "How can you be so sure?" Adam walked to the window, watching the reporters below with an expression she had never seen before, calculating, almost dangerous. "Because I know who is behind this," he murmured, "and I'm going to destroy them." "What do you mean?" He turned to her, and for a moment Jessica saw the ruthless businessman who had built an empire from nothing. "There are very powerful people who don't want this festival to succeed, not just for cultural reasons, but for economic and political reasons." "I don't understand." Adam sat next to her on the couch, taking her hands in his. "Jessica, there are things about my position here that I haven't told you. The festival is not just a cultural event for me. It's a political statement about the kind of Saudi Arabia I want to help build." "What kind of statement?" "One that says we can honor our traditions while embracing the world. That Islam and modernity are not incompatible. That love can exist between cultures without destroying either of them." Jessica looked at him with a mixture of admiration and terror. "And that threatens some people. Many people. Both conservatives here who want to keep us isolated, and opportunists in the US who benefit from maintaining stereotypes about us." Adam's phone rang, and he answered in fast Arabic. His expression progressively darkened. "What's wrong?" Jessica asked when he hung up. "3 major festival sponsors just withdrew their support. Because of the news? Because of the pressure. Someone is using our relationship as an excuse to attack the entire project." Jessica felt as if the weight of the world had fallen on her shoulders. "Adam, maybe we should—" "What? Give up? Let them win? Maybe we should be realistic," she burst out, the pressure of the last few hours finally getting to her. "Look at what's happening. I'm ruining your project, your reputation, probably your future." Jessica breathed. "No." She got up from the couch, walking to the window. "My mum was right. Men like you don't end up with women like me. This was a beautiful fantasy, but now we have to face reality." "What reality?" "That we are too different. That the world isn't ready for this. That I don't belong here." Adam walked over to her, his expression intense. "Is that what you really believe?" "It's what I see." Jessica pointed to the window where the reporters were still waiting. "Scandal, controversy, diplomatic problems. This isn't love, Adam. It's a disaster. Do you know what I see?" Adam stood behind her, his hands on her shoulders. I see a brave woman who left everything familiar to follow a dream. I see someone who has faced every obstacle with grace and determination. I see the person who has made me want to be a better man than I was. Adam. And I know what you're thinking, he continued. You're thinking it would be easier if you left, if you went back to DC and we pretended this never happened. Jessica didn't answer, but her tears were a sufficient response. But here's the truth, Jessica. If you leave now, I don't just lose the love of my life. I lose faith in everything we are trying to build here. You can't put that responsibility on me. I'm not putting responsibility on you. He made her turn to face him. I'm putting responsibility on us together. Before Jessica could respond, Adam's phone rang again. This time, when he answered, his expression changed dramatically. Yes, I understand. When? Okay, we'll be there. What's wrong now? Jessica asked in terror. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince wants to see us, both of us, in 1 hour. Jessica felt as if her legs were going to give out. The Crown Prince? Why? Because this has become something bigger than us. Adam took her hands, looking directly into her eyes. Jessica, what happens in the next hour could determine not only our future, but the future of the festival and everything it represents. I don't know if I can do this. You can. He moved closer, his voice becoming fiercely protective. You are the strongest woman I know, and no matter what happens in there, I will be by your side. The trip to the royal palace was surreal. Sitting in the back of a bulletproof Mercedes, dressed in the most conservative outfit she had, Jessica watched Riyadh pass by the darkened windows while trying to process that she was about to meet one of the most powerful leaders in the world. What should I say? She asked nervously. The truth, Adam replied. His Highness appreciates direct honesty. What if he decides I'm a negative influence? What if he orders me deported? Then we fight that decision, but it's not going to happen. How can you be so sure? Adam smiled for the first time in hours. Because I've learned that when something is right, the universe finds a way to make it work. The royal palace in Riyadh was even more impressive than Jessica had imagined. Traditional Arab architecture mixed with contemporary touches, gardens that seemed like oases in the middle of the urban desert, and a sense of power that was almost palpable. They were escorted through corridors, decorated with Islamic art and Persian rugs, until they reached a modern but elegant office. The Crown Prince, a man in his 40s, with an imposing presence but intelligent modern eyes, was waiting for them behind a walnut desk. To your Highness, Adam bowed respectfully, and following his example, Jessica made an appropriate curtsy. Adam, Miss Miller. The prince greeted them in perfect English. Please, sit down. For the next 15 minutes, the Crown Prince questioned them about the festival, its objectives and the recent media events. His questions were direct but not hostile, and gradually Jessica began to relax. Miss Miller, he finally addressed her directly, I understand you are facing considerable pressure to abandon this project. Yes, Your Highness, Jessica replied honestly, both from my country and because of the media situation here. And what keeps you here? Jessica looked at Adam, then back at the prince. The belief that what we are doing is important, Your Highness, that showing the historical connections between our cultures can help build understanding instead of division. And your personal relationship with Adam, how does that affect your perspective? The direct question took Jessica by surprise, but she decided to be completely honest. It has taught me that love can exist across differences, Your Highness, that two people from different worlds can create something beautiful together without abandoning who they are. The prince studied her face for a long moment, then turned to Adam. And you, Adam, are you prepared for the consequences of this relationship? Completely, Your Highness. Jessica has made me a better leader and a better man. Interesting. The prince leaned back in his chair. Do you know why I asked you to come? They both shook their heads. Because the people who are attacking your festival and your relationship represent exactly what we do not want to be as a nation. They represent fear, isolation, and the inability to grow. Jessica felt as if her heart had stopped. Your festival, Miss Miller, will continue with full governmental support, and any person or group that tries to sabotage it will face serious consequences. Your Highness, Adam began, clearly as surprised as Jessica. But, the prince continued, there are conditions. Of course, Jessica replied immediately. First, the festival must be impeccable. No scandal, no additional controversy, no reason for our critics to say we were wrong to support you. Understood. Second, your personal relationship must be handled with discretion until after the festival. Not because it is wrong, but because we cannot give any more ammunition to those who want to destroy what you are building. Jessica looked at Adam, who nodded in agreement. And third, the prince smiled slightly for the first time, I want a personal invitation to the opening gala. My wife is fascinated by American folk music. After leaving the palace, Jessica and Adam sat in silence in the car for several minutes, processing what had just happened. Did we really just get the Crown Prince's support? Jessica finally asked. It seems so. Adam smiled, but then his expression turned serious. But we also just got an enormous amount of pressure. A failure now would not just affect us. I know. Jessica took his hand. Adam, are you sure this is worth it? Are you asking me if you are worth it? He raised her hand and gently kissed her knuckles. Jessica, you have been worth it, since the moment I saw you pick up those broken plates with dignity. That night, while Jessica worked late preparing a new strategy for the festival, she received an unexpected call from the U.S. Jessica Miller? Yes. I'm Carol Vega, a journalist for the Washington Post. We're preparing an article about your situation in Saudi Arabia. I have no comment for the press. Jessica began to hang up. Wait, the woman interrupted her quickly. It's not the kind of article you think. We want to tell your real story. The story of a young American woman who is building cultural bridges in the Middle East. Jessica hesitated. Why? Because in the midst of all this controversy, no one is telling the truth about what you are really doing there. And we believe people need to hear it. After a 1-hour conversation, Jessica agreed to an interview. But when she hung up, she realized she had made a decision that would change everything. She was going to publicly fight for her love and for her project. She would no longer hide. She would no longer let others define her story. Love, she had learned, sometimes requires courage, not only to feel it, but to defend it to the entire world. Chapter 5. The interview with the Washington Post was published a week later with the headline, The Diplomat of the Heart: How a Woman from Ohio is Changing Saudi Arabia. The article painted Jessica as a modern cultural hero, and the international response was overwhelmingly positive. But what Jessica didn't expect was that the media attention would also bring unexpected and painful consequences. 3 days after the publication, while Jessica was in a meeting with jazz musicians who had just arrived from New Orleans, Layla burst into the room with an expression of urgency that immediately alarmed everyone present. Jessica, I need to talk to you, immediately, alone. After excusing herself to the artists, Jessica followed Layla into a private office where she found her visibly upset, with documents scattered across the desk. What's wrong? Is it Adam? Is he okay? Adam is fine, but... Layla hesitated, clearly struggling with how to proceed. Jessica, I've received information that changes everything. Information that Adam should have told you from the beginning. A cold chill settled in Jessica's stomach. What kind of information? Layla took a deep breath and pushed a photograph across the desk. It was an image of an elegant, clearly recent wedding, with Adam dressed in a traditional Saudi thobe, next to a beautiful woman in a modest but Western-style wedding dress. This photo was taken 8 months ago, Layla said softly. 2 months before Adam traveled to D.C., Jessica felt as if the world had stopped. What are you saying? Jessica, Adam is married. The words hit Jessica like a physical hammer. She stared at the photograph, unable to fully process what she was seeing. The man she had kissed, who had told her he loved her, who had talked about building a future together, was smiling radiantly next to another woman on his wedding day. No, she finally whispered. That can't be true. Her name is Zara Al-Mansouri, Layla continued, her voice full of pain from having to deliver this information. She's from one of the most prominent families in Saudi Arabia. The marriage was arranged by their families when they were both children. But he told me, Jessica interrupted herself, suddenly remembering. Adam had mentioned having been engaged before, but he had spoken of it in the past tense, as something that had ended. The ceremony was private, immediate families only, Layla continued. But legally, religiously, they are married. Where is she now? In London. She's studying medicine at Imperial College. According to my sources, Adam and she agreed to live separate lives until she finished her studies. Jessica stood up abruptly, feeling nauseous. Why are you telling me this? Why now? Because someone else found out. Layla put another set of documents on the desk. A British journalist is preparing an explosive article about the married Sheikh and his American mistress. He's going to publish it tomorrow. Jessica's world completely collapsed. Not only had she been deceived by the man she loved, but she was about to become the center of an international scandal as the other woman. Does Adam know they found out? No. He's in Dubai for business meetings. He's coming back tonight. Jessica began to pace back and forth, her mind racing desperately. Why are you helping me? Why aren't you protecting your boss? Layla looked at her with a sad but firm expression. Because in the last 2 months I've seen how he looks at you. I've seen how you've changed his life for the better. And I believe you deserve to know the truth before it becomes public. What kind of truth? The truth that Adam has never loved his wife. The truth that he only married her to appease his family, and then they agreed to live separate lives. And the truth that since he met you, he has been trying to find a way to annul that marriage. Jessica stopped. What? Adam has been consulting with religious and civil lawyers for weeks. He has been looking for legal grounds to dissolve the marriage without dishonoring the Al-Mansouri family. And has he found them? It's complicated. In Islam it's possible, but it requires the consent of both parties and valid reasons. And politically, it would be a massive scandal. Jessica sat down heavily, trying to process all this information. Does she know about me? Not officially, but she is an intelligent woman. She probably suspects. Jessica's phone rang. It was Adam, calling from Dubai. Don't answer, Layla warned. You need time to process this before you talk to him. But Jessica had already answered, driven by a mixture of love and anger that she couldn't control. Habibti, Adam's warm voice came through the line. How is everything? Did the artists from New Orleans arrive okay? Adam, her voice sounded strange even to herself. We need to talk when you get back. Is everything okay? You sound different. Everything is... Jessica looked at the wedding photograph, feeling as if a knife was twisting in her chest. Everything is fine. We'll talk when you get here. I love you, Jessica. For the first time since she had met him, those words hurt her instead of filling her with joy. I love you too, she murmured, and hung up. Layla watched her with compassion. What are you going to do? I don't know, Jessica admitted. What would you do? I would give him the opportunity to explain before making a decision, Layla replied after a moment. Adam isn't perfect, but he's not malicious either. There's more to this story. That night, Jessica couldn't sleep. She walked around her apartment until the wee hours, alternating between anger, pain, and deep confusion. How could she have been so naive? How had she not seen the signs? And what did this mean for the festival, for her future, for everything they had built together? At 2 in the morning, she received a text message from an unknown number. Miss Miller, this is Zara Al-Mansouri. I think we need to talk. Can we meet tomorrow? Jessica stared at the message for several minutes. Adam's wife wanted to meet her. The situation had gone from complicated to completely surreal. She replied, where and when? The answer came immediately. Coffee shop in the Kingdom Center Mall, 3 p.m. I'll be alone. The next day, Jessica arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early, feeling as if she were going to an execution. She had chosen conservative but elegant clothes, unsure of the protocol for meeting the wife of the man she was in love with. Zara Al-Mansouri arrived at exactly 3 and was immediately recognizable despite not wearing traditional clothing. She was breathtakingly beautiful, with shiny black hair, intelligent brown eyes, and a presence that radiated education and class. She wore designer jeans, an elegant blouse, and a silk hijab that perfectly framed her face. Miss Miller, she walked directly to Jessica's table. Thank you for coming. Dr. Al-Mansouri. Jessica stood up, unsure if she should shake her hand. Please, just Zara. The woman smiled, and surprisingly, she seemed genuinely friendly. And may I call you Jessica? They sat facing each other, and for several minutes neither spoke. Finally, Zara broke the silence. I assume you know who I am. Yes, Jessica replied simply. And I assume you just found out I exist. Yesterday. Zara nodded understandingly. Adam has always been terrible with inconvenient details. Inconvenient? The word came out harsher than Jessica had intended. Don't get me wrong. Zara leaned forward. I'm not downplaying the situation, but our marriage has been inconvenient since the day it was agreed upon. But you are married, Jessica insisted, feeling physical pain as she said the words. Legally, yes. In every other way that matters, no. Zara looked her directly in the eyes. Jessica, Adam and I have never lived as husband and wife. We have never consummated the marriage. We agreed from the beginning that it was just a formality. Jessica felt as if she couldn't breathe. Why? Because we both knew we were destined to find love elsewhere. I'm in love with a fellow student in London, an Egyptian doctor. And Adam, she smiled softly, apparently found his love in an American restaurant in D.C. Has he talked to you about me? Indirectly. But I've seen how he has changed since he returned from the U.S. Happier, more alive. Jessica processed this information, feeling a mixture of relief and confusion. So, why are you telling me this? Because tomorrow, an article will come out that will paint us all as villains in a sordid love triangle, because the festival you have worked so hard to create is in danger, and because, Zara hesitated, because I believe you and Adam deserve a real chance. What do you propose? That we make this public on our terms. Zara leaned forward with determination. That we announce that our marriage is being annulled by mutual agreement, that it was always just a union of convenience, and that we are both free to seek our own future. Would your family agree to that? My father is a progressive man. He prefers a daughter who is honest and happy to a daughter trapped in a fake marriage. And Adam's family? That, Zara smiled sadly, is a different battle. After 2 hours of intense conversation, Jessica left the coffee shop with a completely different perspective on the situation. Zara was not her enemy. She was an unexpected ally in an impossibly complicated situation. But when she arrived at her apartment, she found Adam waiting for her in the lobby, and the expression on his face told her that he already knew that she knew. "Jessica," he approached cautiously as if she were a wounded animal. "We need to talk." "Yes," she replied. "We definitely need to talk." In the elevator to her apartment, the silence was tense and charged. When they finally entered and closed the door, Adam turned to her with an expression of utter pain. "I'm sorry," were his first words. "I should have told you the truth from the beginning." "What truth, Adam?" Jessica crossed her arms, all the anger and pain of the last 24 hours finally coming to the surface. "The truth that you're married? The truth that you've been lying to me for months? Or the truth that you made me the other woman without me knowing it?" "All those truths," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "But there are also truths you don't know." "I just spent 2 hours with your wife," Jessica interrupted him. "So I know more than you think." Adam looked at her in complete surprise. "You talked to Zara?" "Yes, and she told me things that you should have told me from the start." "Like what?" "Like that your marriage was never real. Like that you agreed to live separate lives. Like that you've been looking for ways to annul it." Adam closed his eyes, clearly struggling with his emotions. "She told you all that? Is it true?" "Every word." He moved closer. "Jessica, my marriage to Zara was a family transaction, not a choice of the heart. I've never been in love with her. We've never lived as husband and wife, and since I met you, I've been desperately trying to find a way to free myself from that obligation without destroying our families." "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was afraid," he admitted, his voice cracking slightly. "Afraid that you would leave before I had the chance to fix things. Afraid of losing you before I found a solution." Jessica looked at him, seeing the absolute sincerity in his eyes, but also feeling the weight of months of deception. "Adam, I understand the family complications. I understand the cultural pressures, but I don't understand how you could kiss me, tell me you loved me, plan a future with me, without telling me that there is another woman who legally has rights to you. Because that woman has no rights to my heart." He moved closer, taking her hands. "Because my heart is yours completely, without reservation. Your heart, maybe." Jessica gently pulled away from his grasp. "But your life, your name, your family, all of that is complicated by obligations you chose not to share with me. What can I do to fix this?" Jessica looked at him for a long moment, seeing the man she loved, but also recognizing that their relationship had been built on a fundamental omission. "I need time, Adam. I need to process all this." "How much time?" "I don't know. But right now, with the article coming out tomorrow, with the festival in 2 weeks, with all this scandal, I can't make decisions about us based on emotions." Adam nodded sadly. "What about the festival?" "The festival continues," Jessica said firmly. "It's bigger than our personal problems, but I need us to keep things professional until we figure this out." "And after the festival?" "After the festival," Jessica took a deep breath, "we'll decide if we can build something real on a foundation of complete honesty, or if this secret has damaged what we had too much." Adam walked toward the door, but he stopped on the threshold. "Jessica, there's one more thing you need to know." "What?" "I love you. With every fiber of my being, I love you, and I'm going to fight for us until my last breath." After he left, Jessica sat on her couch, holding the wedding photograph that Layla had shown her. For the first time since she had arrived in Riyadh, she felt completely alone. Love, she had learned, was more complicated than fairy tales suggested. Sometimes loving someone meant facing truths you would rather not know, and sometimes the most devastating secret is not a lie, but an inconvenient truth that was hidden out of fear. Chapter 6. The British journalist's article was published exactly as Layla had predicted, with the sensationalist headline, "The Sheikh, the Wife, and the Mistress. A Scandal at the Heart of Saudi Arabia." But instead of destroying everything Jessica and Adam had built, the article triggered something unexpected. A global conversation about love, traditions, and the human capacity for change. Jessica woke up that morning to hundreds of messages on her social media. Some were critical and cruel, but the majority were supportive. Women from all over the world shared their own stories of loving across cultural boundaries, of facing family expectations, of fighting for the right to choose their own destiny. "You are brave for following your heart," wrote a woman from Morocco. "Don't let anyone tell you that love can't conquer differences." "My husband and I are of different religions," wrote another from Mexico. "We have been happily married for 20 years. True love finds a way, but the message that impacted her the most came from a completely unexpected source, her own mother. "Honey," Carol had written in a WhatsApp message, "I saw the news. I'm flying to Riyadh today. It's time I met this man who has stolen my daughter's heart." Jessica almost fainted. Her conservative Christian mother, who had spent months worrying about her Arabian adventure, had decided to fly to Saudi Arabia to meet Adam. 3 hours later, while Jessica was in a crisis meeting with the festival team, Layla burst in again with urgent news. "Jessica, there's a crowd outside the cultural center. Protesters again?" "No," Layla smiled for the first time in days. "Supporters. Hundreds of people, Arabs and foreigners, with signs supporting the festival and you two." Jessica ran to the window and gasped. Indeed, there were hundreds of people with signs that read, "Love knows no borders. We support the cultural festival," and "Adam and Jessica, ambassadors of love." "How did they organize this so fast?" she asked, astonished. "Social media," Layla explained. "The hashtag #CharlesLoveWithoutBorders is trending worldwide. People from dozens of countries are sharing their own stories of intercultural love." That afternoon, while Jessica was trying to stay focused on the festival preparations that would begin in a week, she received a call that changed everything. "Miss Miller?" The voice was female, older, with an aristocratic Saudi accent. "Yes, I am Fatima Al-Mutairi, Adam's mother. I believe it is time we talked." Jessica felt as if her heart had stopped. Adam's mother, the matriarch of one of the most powerful families in Saudi Arabia, wanted to meet her. "Of course, Mrs. Al-Mutairi. When would be convenient?" "Now. My driver is waiting for you outside the cultural center." The trip to the Al-Mutairi family residence was like entering a completely different world. The mansion was a modern palace that blended traditional Arab architecture with contemporary luxuries, perfectly manicured gardens, marble fountains, and an air of dynastic power that could be physically felt. Fatima Al-Mutairi was a woman in her 60s, elegant and dignified, dressed in a black silk abaya embroidered with gold thread. Her eyes, the same intense blue as Adam's, studied Jessica with a penetrating intelligence. "Miss Miller," she greeted her in a living room decorated with authentic Islamic art and Persian rugs that were probably worth more than Jessica's house in the US. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me, Mrs. Al-Mutairi. Please sit. We have a lot to talk about." For the next few minutes, Fatima served traditional tea and Arab sweets while evaluating Jessica with a look that revealed nothing. "Tell me," she finally began, "do you love my son?" The direct question took Jessica by surprise, but she decided to answer with the same honesty. "With all my heart, ma'am." "And do you understand the complications that love brings?" "I understand them better now than before," Jessica admitted. "Although I wish I had known all the complications from the beginning." Fatima smiled slightly for the first time. "Adam has always been impulsive when it comes to protecting what he loves. He didn't tell you about Zara because he was afraid of losing you. Did you know about my existence?" "Since the second week after he returned from DC, Fatima took a sip of tea. "A son cannot hide when he is in love, especially from his mother." "And what do you think of this?" Jessica gestured vaguely, referring to the whole situation. "I think," Fatima leaned forward, "that in my 60 years of life, I have never seen Adam as happy as he has been these last few months." Jessica blinked in surprise. "Really? Completely serious? But I also think that you two have been handling this situation like children instead of like adults." "What do you mean?" "I mean that you have been allowing others to dictate the terms of your relationship. The media, the critics, social expectations, even me." Fatima placed her teacup on the table. "It's time for you to take control of your own story." "How?" "By getting married." Jessica almost choked on her tea. "I'm sorry?" "You heard me correctly. I want you to marry my son." "But Mrs. Al-Mutairi, he is already married." "That marriage will be annulled tomorrow," Fatima interrupted her calmly. "Zara and her family have been in agreement for weeks. They were just waiting for the appropriate moment. And the scandal." "What scandal?" Fatima raised an elegant eyebrow. "An arranged marriage that is dissolved by mutual agreement is not a scandal. It is an evolution." Jessica fell silent, trying to process this information. "But there are conditions," Fatima continued. "Of course. First, the wedding must be held here, in Riyadh, with both traditions represented. I want the world to see that Islam and Christianity can coexist in love." "And Adam agrees to this?" "Adam doesn't know we're having this conversation," Fatima smiled, "but he has been begging me for weeks to intervene on his behalf." "What is the second condition?" "That you stop acting like a victim and start acting like the strong woman I know you are." The words hit Jessica like a slap. "I'm sorry. You have spent days feeling betrayed and hurt, which is understandable. But Adam made an error of omission, not betrayal. And now you are both paying for that with your happiness. Jessica looked at her with a mixture of respect and irritation. Are you saying I should just forgive him? I am saying you should decide if you want to build a future or remain trapped in the pain of the past. That night, Jessica walked alone through the gardens of the cultural center, reflecting on the conversation with Fatima. Her words had been harsh, but fair. She had been so focused on feeling betrayed that she had lost sight of what really mattered, the love she shared with Adam and the future they could build together. Her reflection was interrupted by the sound of familiar footsteps. She turned and found Adam approaching cautiously. Layla told me you might be here, he said softly. Your mother came to see me today. Jessica got straight to the point. My mother? Adam seemed genuinely surprised. What did she want? To give me a different perspective on our situation. What kind of perspective? Jessica looked at him, studying his face in the moonlight. She saw the tiredness in his eyes, the lines of tension that had appeared in recent days, but she also saw something else, vulnerable hope. Adam, do you love me? More than my own life, he replied without hesitation. And do you want a future with me? It's the only thing I want in the world. Then why didn't you fight for us when things got difficult? Adam moved closer. What do you mean? I mean that when I found out about Zara, you let me pull away. You respected my space, my need for time, my emotional process, but you never fought for us. I thought that's what you wanted. What I wanted, Jessica walked until they were face to face, was for you to show me that our love is worth more than any obstacle. And how do I do that? By marrying me. Adam looked at her in complete disbelief. What? Tomorrow your marriage to Zara will be annulled. The day after tomorrow the festival begins. The day after the festival ends, I want us to get married. Jessica, are you sure? I have never been more sure of anything in my life. Without another word, Adam took her in his arms and kissed her with a passion he had been holding back for days. When they separated, they were both trembling. Is that a yes? Jessica asked. That's an eternal yes, he murmured against her lips. The Bridges of Culture Festival began 3 days later with an opening gala that exceeded all expectations. The cultural center was filled to capacity with attendees from more than 30 countries. The Crown Prince and his wife occupied seats of honor, along with ambassadors, artists, academics, and cultural activists. The opening began with an extraordinary musical fusion, jazz guitar from an American virtuoso, combined with traditional oud played by the master Abdul Rahman al-Sudais. The sound they created together was something that had never been heard before, completely new but deeply familiar, as if the two traditions had been waiting for centuries to reunite. Jessica, wearing a traditional American quilting-inspired outfit that was culturally appropriate, gave a speech in Arabic and English that left the audience in complete silence. For centuries, she began, our cultures have proven that different people can create something beautiful together. Tonight we begin to write a new chapter of that history. Adam, dressed in a suit that combined traditional Arab elements with Western touches, spoke about vision and hope. Love, he said, looking directly at Jessica, is the most powerful universal language. It knows no borders. It does not respect differences, and it always finds a way to unite what seems impossible to connect. The next 5 days were a whirlwind of artistic presentations, cultural workshops, academic conferences, and culinary demonstrations. Jazz musicians played with Arab musicians, poets recited verses in both languages, artisans exchanged techniques that had been separated for centuries. But the most emotional moment came in the final presentation, when Carol Miller, Jessica's mother, appeared on stage with Fatima al-Mutayri to announce something extraordinary. As mothers, Carol began in English, with simultaneous Arabic translation, we want to say that true love always finds a way to surprise us. We have decided, Fatima continued in Arabic, that the wedding of our children will be the closing event of this festival, a celebration of everything we have learned about love that transcends cultures. The audience's ovation was deafening. Jessica and Adam looked at each other from opposite sides of the stage, both smiling through tears of happiness. The wedding took place 2 days later in the gardens of the Cultural Center, transformed into an oasis of beauty that combined Arab and American elements. Jessica wore a dress designed especially for the occasion, white silk with traditional American quilting embroidery in golden thread, with a veil that incorporated Islamic motifs. Adam wore a suit that honored both traditions. The ceremony was officiated by both an imam and a Christian minister, in a demonstration that true love can honor multiple traditions without betraying any. When they exchanged vows, they spoke in both languages. I love you in English, I love you in Arabic. I love you in the universal language of the heart, Jessica said. You are my past, my present, and my future, in any language you choose to speak, Adam replied. The celebration that followed was a party that lasted until dawn, with food that fused Arab and American flavors, music that mixed jazz with traditional Gulf melodies, and dances that showed how art can unite what politics sometimes separates. 6 months later, Jessica and Adam were sitting on the terrace of their new home in Riyadh, a modern mansion that incorporated both Arab and American architectural elements. Jessica was reading international reviews of her newly published book, Love Without Borders, a Cultural Memoir, while Adam reviewed proposals for the second annual festival. Listen to this, Jessica read aloud. The story of Jessica Miller and Adam al-Mutairi is not just a love story. It is a masterclass on how individual courage can create massive cultural change. Do you like being famous? Adam asked, leaning in to kiss her forehead. I like that our story is inspiring other intercultural couples, she replied. Layla sent me a report. More than 1,000 couples have contacted our foundation seeking support to navigate cultural differences. And what do you think of the next festival? I think it should include more countries: India, China, Nigeria. The world is bigger than just the US and Saudi Arabia. Adam smiled, taking her hand where a wedding ring shone, combining diamonds with emeralds, symbolizing both purity and hope. You know what my mother told me yesterday? He asked. What? That she is ready to be a grandmother. Jessica laughed, placing a hand on her belly where, although it was still too early to be sure, she suspected that a small life was already growing. Maybe she won't have to wait long, she murmured. That night, as they prepared for bed, Jessica reflected on the extraordinary journey her life had been in the last year. She had started as a waitress in DC who felt invisible and without a future, and she had found not only the love of her life, but also her purpose, to be a bridge between worlds. What are you thinking about? Adam asked, cuddling up to her side. That sometimes the best adventures begin with the worst days. Are you referring to the day you dropped the plates? I'm referring to the day I decided to risk everything for something that seemed impossible. Adam held her tighter. And was it worth it? Every moment of pain, every tear, every fear. Jessica turned to look into his eyes. It was all worth it to get here with you. I love you, Jessica al-Mutairi, and I love you, Adam, forever. As they fell asleep under the desert stars that now shone over their new home, Jessica knew that she had found exactly what she had been looking for her whole life without knowing it. A love that loved her for who she was, helped her grow into who she wanted to be, and gave her the courage to dream bigger than she had ever imagined. Because in the end, the best love stories are not about perfect people who meet in perfect circumstances. They are about real people who choose to love each other through imperfections, obstacles, and differences, creating something more beautiful than either of them could have imagined separately. And sometimes, just sometimes, when two hearts dare to dream together, they can change not only their own lives, but also the world around them. 3 years later, as Jessica held her newborn son Omar and watched Adam teach Arabic words to their 2-year-old daughter Eleanor, she knew they had achieved something extraordinary. They had created a family that was a living testament that true love can conquer any border. And in the gardens of their house, where both American hydrangeas and Arab jasmine grew, the sweet scent of two cultures flourishing together filled the air, promising that their love story would continue to inspire future generations to dare to love without limits.